Today we have something of a double feature. Dead Rising 2 had 2 downloadable chapters exclusive to the Xbox 360. The first was a prologue called Dead Rising 2 Case 0, and the second was an epilogue titled Dead Rising 2 Case West. We'll take a look at Case 0 first, as, well, that one came out first. Released in August 2010, Dead Rising 2 Case 0 served to introduce us to our new protagonist, Chuck Greene, new mechanics such as combo weapons, and provide some additional story elements. As the game starts, Chuck and his recently infected daughter Katie have just escaped the Las Vegas outbreak and stopped for fuel at a little town known as Still Creek. Sadly, their car, containing all of their Zombrex, is stolen, leaving them stranded while the military starts setting up a perimeter and quarantining the infected. Chuck has mere hours to find some Zombrex and skip town. He comes across an old motorcycle, but it's missing several parts, and that's where you come in. The majority of the game consists of finding parts to repair the bike and escape. Thankfully, the town you're in is pathetically small, and very few buildings can actually be entered. Even then, some of the ones you can explore are surprisingly barren. Check out this hotel. There's no shower, and just a single drab bed in a corner. Hello, I'd like a different room, please. Meanwhile, this building's just plain empty. Great job. Finding the bike parts doesn't take very long. I'd be surprised if I spent more than 20 minutes grabbing everything. But one playthrough is always going to be at least an hour long, thanks to bullshit padding. One of the parts is linked to a survivor who doesn't spawn until a set time. Your only notification he's there is Bob, a survivor who sits on a rooftop for the entire game, calling you over to speak with him when he spots someone. I quickly grabbed 4 out of the 5 bike parts, but then spent ages just running around the town waiting for Bob to give me a shout. Even once you've got all of the parts, Chuck refuses to assemble the damn bike and escape until after giving Katie her next dose of Zombrex at 7 PM. Killing time was agonizing, as there's so little to do and see in Still Creek. Seriously, there are a total of 10 survivors, 9 combo weapons, and Chuck can't gain experience after reaching level 5. You'll spend the majority of your time running in circles around this tiny map, begging for something to actually happen. Out of boredom, I figured out how to get into the locked sheriff's office, hoping to be rewarded with a survivor or a really cool weapon. Nope, you get a shotgun and that's about it. This glorified demo was an utter disappointment. You're better off just skipping it and saving yourself one of the dullest hours of your life. I'm actually angry that Capcom had the balls to charge £3.39 for this. Let's hope that Case West fares a little bit better. December 2010 saw Chuck Greene and Frank West team up to investigate a pharmaceutical facility in the aftermath of the events of Dead Rising 2. This game actually starts where one of Dead Rising 2's endings left off, so it's impossible to discuss the plot without giving massive spoilers. But what I can say is that this epilogue provides several important reveals, including the introduction of a main villain we'll see again in Dead Rising 3. Gameplay-wise, there are very few noteworthy changes. Chuck's always accompanied by Frank, who retains many of his moves from the first Dead Rising. Frank can be controlled by either an online co-op partner or the AI, but sadly, if you're playing single player, you're forced to play as Chuck. This is a huge disappointment, as this game proceeded off the record, and Capcom had made a big deal over Frank's return when promoting the downloadable chapter. While the AI's in charge, Frank's invincible, so at least you don't have to worry about him. He doesn't benefit from infinite ammo, as survivors in most Dead Rising games do. However, he does have an unlimited supply of baseball bats. Speaking of survivors, there are again only 9 of them to save, and for once, you don't have to escort them to a safe haven. Usually they'll just request something of you and the game counts them as being saved once you fulfill their mission. Survivors with specific requests are nothing new. We've seen people ask for food, weapons, or certain people to be with you before. And not escorting the survivors somewhat cheapens them. If they can make their own way out anytime they choose, what do they need the player for? There are also 7 new combo weapons, the majority of which are insanely broken and overpowered, with my favourite being the Zap and Shine. Electric Zombie Boogaloo coming through. You're going to need those weapons too, as you'll constantly be fighting heavily armed security guards who just love to throw flashbangs at you while attacking in groups. These guys are not only incredibly annoying to deal with, but they respawn when you re-enter previous areas. Sadly, that's something you'll be doing quite often as the map is again tiny. You'll do a lot of backtracking and become uncomfortably familiar with the facility. Despite its drab, unchanging, uninspired industrial aesthetic, you'll soon be able to find your way around without a map or guide arrow because there aren't exactly a lot of wrong turns you can take in the first place. Case West will only appeal to hardcore Dead Rising fans who care about the lore and need to experience every plot development themselves. If that's you, know that the price of admission is a ridiculous £6.75 for revelations that Dead Rising 3 only goes and tramples all over anyway. I usually try to see the good in everything, it's just that these two titles really don't have much going for them. In fact, Capcom themselves decided to ignore them altogether when they remastered Dead Rising 1, 2, and Off the Record for current generation consoles, and I know there were some fans who were upset about that. However, if anything, Capcom did you a favour. They saved you from a massive letdown. And, speaking of letdowns,